How to play Ultimatum, the cooperative board game where you and your team are collaborating in a race against time to save the world. We start with the game board. The world is divided into 6 regions, all consisting of 8 cities. So there are 48 cities in total. Your team wins when you secure 3 regions and complete your mission. Your team loses if 3 regions are lost first or if the mission can no longer be completed. The cities have different colors, indicating the specific disaster they can face. For example, Amsterdam faces the sea level rise disaster, indicated by its purple color. The color of a city also determines the types of preventions that can be built to secure it. So, to secure Amsterdam, you'll need to build 2 energy and 1 flora. Now, we'll set up the game board and introduce the other components. First, we're going to draw 1 disaster mission card. This will be your team's mission. If you want to increase complexity, you can draw 1 regional mission card too. However, for beginners this is not recommended. All team members must determine their starting location. Take the disaster cards pile, remove the 7 catastrophe cards, shuffle and draw 1 card for each player. Each player selects a token and places it in the right location. Put all cards back in the pile, shuffle again and place it on the game board. The next step is to collect your starting preventions and set up the prevention cards pile. Keep the 8 special event cards separate from the pile and then shuffle. Draw 5 prevention cards and deal them to a player. And of course, do this for all players. Put the special event cards back in the remaining pile, shuffle again and place it on the game board. The setup is now almost completed, but 1 important step is left, as a few disasters already stroke the world. One by one, draw 3 disaster cards and roll the dark disaster die to determine their damage. Place the corresponding number of disaster stones in the right location on the game board. However, you might draw a catastrophe card. If this happens, you need to place 1 disaster stone in all indicated cities. When this happens, the setup is now immediately completed and you don't have to draw another disaster card. If you would have drawn the global catastrophe card, things would have been even worse. In that case, the location of the player that drew the card determines the type of cities that are impacted. And you would have to place 2 disaster stones in each city. Now the setup is completed and it's time to start playing. The player with the smallest footprint can start the game, and from there players take turns clockwise. So, how does a turn work? On every turn, you must always complete 3 consecutive phases. First, the action phase, in which you take up to 4 actions. Then, the collection phase, in which you draw new prevention cards. And finally, the disaster phase, in which new disasters strike. In the action phase, you may execute a maximum of 4 actions. There are different types of actions to choose from, and you may repeat the same type of action multiple times. The options are the following. You can either travel, play a prevention card, play a special event card, trade with the World Climate Bank, buy the specialist card, or play your special power, only when you are the specialist. There are 2 types of actions that you will execute many times during the game: traveling and building preventions. To travel, you roll the white travel die and move exactly that number of steps. Keep in mind that you may only move along the white connected paths on the playing board. Also, you may only move forward and you may not end in the same city you started from. To build preventions, you play prevention cards. You must be located in the city where the card is used, and the city color indicates the types of preventions that can be played. So, when you're in Kinshasa, you can build either water or flora. If you now play 1 water card, you can place 1 water stone on Kinshasa. Playing 1 prevention counts as 1 action. So, if you want to secure Kinshasa in 1 go, you must play all 3 required prevention cards. In this case, 1 water card and 2 flora cards. In total, this takes 3 actions. However, there is 1 exception to this. Imagine that Kinshasa was already damaged by a previous disaster, and 1 disaster stone was placed on it. In that case, playing 1 prevention card would not have resulted in placing 1 water stone, but instead playing that card would have allowed us to remove the disaster stone. Prevention stones and disaster stones cancel each other out 1 for 1. And before you can place prevention stones, first all disaster stones should be removed. So, a city is secured if all required preventions for the city are present. This means the city is now permanently safe from any future disasters. As soon as you've played the third prevention card, remove all prevention stones from the city and place a green checkmark chip on it. Besides traveling and building preventions, there are 4 other actions that you can take. Playing a special event card speaks for itself. Just execute the action stated on the card. To trade with the World Climate Bank, you must discard 3 of the same type of prevention cards. In turn, you receive 1 prevention stone of choice, which must immediately be placed in the city you're in. Another option is to buy the Specialist card. This unlocks a special power that no one else has. Only 1 player can buy this card and will remain the Specialist during the entire game. Buying it takes only 1 action, but comes with a high price of 2 energy, 1 water, 1 flora and 1 crop card. The Specialist can choose 1 additional type of action, removing a disaster stone from a city without having to play a prevention card. You can only do this in the city you're located, and removing 1 disaster stone takes 1 action. After the action phase, it's time to collect new preventions. One by one, draw 3 cards from the prevention cards pile and add them to your hand. There is a chance you draw a special event card. If you draw a positive card, described as 1-time power, you must add it to your hand as a regular prevention card. You can play this during any future turn. But if you draw a negative card, described as crisis, you should first immediately execute the described effect and then continue drawing prevention cards until you have drawn 3 cards in total. Every turn ends with the disaster phase. New disasters will now strike cities across the world, unless you already secure them. One by one, draw 3 disaster cards and roll the dark disaster die to determine their damage. The number you roll equals the number of disaster stones you must place in the city depicted on the card. If you draw one of the catastrophe cards, you must execute the effect stated on the card, impacting multiple cities. After this, your turn is immediately over. Also, if you did not draw 3 disaster cards yet. Just as cities require 3 preventions to be secured, 3 is also the magic number for disasters. When the number of disaster stones in a city would amount to 3 or more, the city is lost. This happens, for example, when you roll 3 with the disaster die and the city didn't have any stones before, but also when you roll a 2 while the city already had a disaster stone. If the city is indeed lost, this means you can't secure it anymore. Remove all disaster stones from the city and place a red crossmark chip on it. There is one upside: the city also won't be impacted by any future disasters anymore. Again, there is a situation in which rolling a 3 doesn't immediately lead to losing a city. Remember the balance between preventions and disasters we talked about? This also works the other way around. If the city that was displayed on the card already had 1 or more prevention stones, you must first remove those before placing disaster stones. Again, they trade 1 for 1. If there were 2 prevention stones of different types and you only have to remove 1, you are free to choose which one. Finally, if you draw a city that has already been secured, the card won't have any impact. However, this still counts for one of the 3 disaster cards that should be drawn. After a few turns, it can be that more and more cities are secured and lost. We already talked about how this works for cities, but what about regions? Luckily, this is simple. To secure a region, you must secure at least 4 cities in it before 4 of its cities are lost. If you make sure you secure the 4th city while not more than 3 are lost, you're safe. If you secure a region, you should remove all prevention stones, disaster stones, checkmark chips and crossmark chips from the region and place 1 checkmark chip on the tracker at the bottom of the game board. The region and all of its cities are now permanently safe from any future disasters. If instead the 4th city in a region is lost before you have secured 4 cities, the opposite happens. Again, remove all stones and chips from the region, but instead of a checkmark chip, now place a red crossmark chip on the tracker at the bottom of the game board. No further actions or disasters can occur in that region. And remember, if 3 regions are lost before 3 regions have been secured, the game ends in defeat. To win the game, you have one additional challenge. You shouldn't only secure 3 regions before losing 3, but you must also complete your mission. During the game setup, your team has drawn a mission. And as we just mentioned, to be able to win the game, your team must also complete this mission. This means that you shouldn't only pay attention to securing regions, but also to all individual cities that are part of your mission. There is a separate tracker on the game board to track the progress on your mission. For every city that you secure that is part of your mission, you should place a checkmark chip on this tracker. If you reach 4, you have completed your mission. There is one tactic that can help you complete your mission faster. When a city is neither lost nor secured, and you secure the region that city is part of, that city will also automatically be secured. For example, if your mission card is related to water stress and you secure Asia Pacific, Sydney is automatically secured, and you can place the checkmark chip on the tracker. As soon as you've completed your mission and secured 3 regions before 3 were lost, your team has won the game. Congratulations, you just saved the world. And that's how you play Ultimatum. Can you turn the tide? Check out our website for FAQs and more tips and videos. Enjoy playing.